Want to start selling shoes on eBay but aren't quite sure how to ship them? This video is going to be for you. I'm going to be touching on several different examples: how to ship with authentication, how to ship without authentication, how to ship with the box, how to ship without the box, all different types of scenarios. This is going to be the video for you. Let's hop straight in. First off, talking about authentication shipping, because a lot of people have questions on this. Basically, if you price a pair of like Nike, Adidas, Jordan, one of those higher end brands above $75, it's going to trigger the authentication shipping. I have a full video explaining that, so I'll link that above, but I will briefly explain it. Basically, the authentication, eBay sends you a label when it sells, so anything $75 and up, and they're going to send you a prepaid FedEx label that you would just go in to ship like any other order and just click print shipping label, and that FedEx label is right there. You do not get that $15 though. eBay gets that. All you're taking home is your price minus the fees, which is usually like 12.5% on shoes. So let's start with a pair of those. We've already printed our label. We can see we got the FedEx label here. These are a pair of Packers Air Pegasus. Aside the point, but this was a good flip. These were $40 online on Nike when they were running a clearance event and stacking some codes. And I sold it for $100 plus the authentication shipping. So a lot of you will ask, how am I supposed to package this when I get the authentication label? One of the biggest keys with authentication, actually getting them to pass, is actually making sure the box is in the correct listed position when it gets there. So I'm always one that tells you, and we'll talk about this later, to send shoes in a poly mailer. Do not send shoes in a poly mailer that are going to authentication. That's most of the time when I'm not sending them. So what am I using? I'm using a 16 by 10 by 6 box. You can also use a scrap box. It gives you up to like 25 by 25 by 25 dimensions and like 30 pounds. So sometimes I'll just have a big box I want to get rid of and I'll just send it to authentication. You're going to want to have a tape gun too. Also make sure to watch my supplies video. Got the 3-inch tape rolling. This is very easy with authentication shipping. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but honestly, there's a lot of things I do like about it as well. Just how simple it is, not having to worry about the label, and then not having to worry about anything happening after the buyer gets it, because once it goes to authentication shipping, there's nothing they can do. That's eBay's problem. So there are some pros and cons. Again, go watch that video and I go way more in depth on it. But as for authentication shipping, this guy is now done. Next, what about a pair of loose shoes like this that you get from, let's say, Burlington, because that's where I got these. So if you're selling cleats or loose shoes, a lot of times people will actually put these in poly mailers. For cleats, I'm not going to want to do that because obviously these can rip it. But I have put some lower end cleats in bubble mailers, which I have behind me right here. These though, these didn't sell. These are listed for like $100. So when they sell, I'm going to just send in a scrap box. It's over a pound anyway. So if you have a scrap box that keeps it under the 2 or the 3 pound rate, it's really not going to make a difference. And I think buyers might like to get their shoes in a box. But if you don't, you just have poly mailers, and say you sold a low end pair of running shoes. I've done it before. I've sent them in polys, and honestly, I've not had an issue. I would just send it in like a 14.5 by 19 or a 12 by 16, one of these. You can see I got all my poly sizes right here. Another option that used to be like huge for sending shoes without the box was using the free priority mailing boxes. They have an actual shoe box. Problem is right now, priority is like $1 to $2 more than sending it USPS, UPS, or FedEx. So we're not going to do that. Speaking of services, typically if it's not authentication where you have to use FedEx, I'm using USPS Ground Advantage. I know right now UPS and FedEx, as you will see later, have really good rates, and they're competing with USPS like crazy. Like some labels are like 30 to 50 cents cheaper, UPS or FedEx. I'm actually going to make a video on some of the bad experiences I've had with UPS and FedEx. Like, they have surcharged me out of a lot of money on correct shipping labels, and USPS just doesn't do that. So I'm going to go more in depth on that video. You guys got to do what works for you. FedEx just dinged me again the other day on something that was 3 pounds, and they said it weighed 16 pounds and hit me with a $32 surcharge like on a pair of shoes. I know those weren't 16 pounds. So it's just kind of scummy, the practices they do with that. So I'm going to go more in depth on that video just to be cautious with UPS and FedEx. That's why I just use Ground Advantage from USPS. So that's typically what I would ship unboxed shoes. Next, box shoes, but let's say lower end. These I paid $22.50 from Kohl's. I need to take the tag off as well. These did actually sell. I didn't have a loose pair of shoes that sold today. That I had a pair of boots that went authentication, but I wanted to show examples of me actually shipping everything, but unfortunately I didn't sell a loose pair, so that's why I just gave those cleats as an example. Those should sell any day now. Anyways though, we've got these lower end pair of New Balances, sold them for like 60, 65 bucks. This person is not gonna care about the box, so that's when I'm sending it in a poly mailer. And I sent this one USPS Ground Advantage. So this is a 14.5 by 19 poly. And all we're gonna do is seal this sucker up. I like to tuck the little flaps in on the other end. And we are good to go. A lot of people like to overpack these and put in another box. Well, if you don't have scrap boxes, you're gonna have to pay for another box, and it's gonna push it over the 3-pound threshold where this is under 2 pounds. Sometimes it'll push over the 4-pound threshold when it's under 3 pounds. So you're just charging yourself more money. Stop overpacking stuff. Nobody's gonna give a crap about the box on the New Balance shoes. All right, and then lastly, I'm going to give a complete walkthrough on buying the label and everything on these Allbirds that just sold. So first off, like I just said, stop overpacking stuff. These are a pair of Allbirds that sold for like $36. They're going in a poly mailer. These 14.5 by 19s fit these shoes like nobody's business. They fit most every pair of these shoes, of any type of box shoes. The only time they don't is if it's like size 13 and above. Those are some big boxes from like Nike, so I will send those in like 19 by 24 boxes. Good to go. So now, as always, we're just in our manage orders in eBay on the computer. We're going to click get shipping label. Then we're going to come over here. We're going to weigh it. We can see it is the 2-pound rate. We're going to measure it. 11 by 11 by 4. Going to come over here. It doesn't really matter. The dimensions are not going to make a difference unless they are like massive. Then we can come down here and view all of our rates. As we can see, I don't know why they selected priority because I had Ground Advantage on there, but that's besides the point. We can see we've got priority, we've got UPS Ground, we've got USPS Ground Advantage. That's what I usually select, so let's just select that. We also have FedEx. So it doesn't look like FedEx and UPS are very competitive on this one. Well, UPS is 1 cent cheaper, but I'm gonna need to see like $1 or so before I pick them. But we can see all the rates that we have. You don't want to choose any of the flat rates because we are not using a flat rate option. So we're gonna go with Ground Advantage, which is $6.14. Purchase label, print label, and apply label. So that will about wrap it up. I hope this was able to help you if you wanted to start selling shoes on eBay or any platform. These practices can really be used anywhere. I just bought the label on eBay, but you can easily buy the label on Pirate Ship. I sell a lot of shoes also on Mercari and Amazon, so the packing is the same exact way. If you're interested in my cook group, you can check that out. First link in the description. Comment down below any videos you guys would like to see next. I'm really trying to dive into more tutorials and trying to teach you guys and just share some of the knowledge that I've gained over the years. Thanks so much for watching. There's money to be made everywhere, guys. Let's go get it. Thank you for watching The Millennial Prophet.